But to talk to your question about what are the particular aspects of a parent dying that are difficult, or, you know, what happens, it may not be that they're difficult. I mean, I think in a way, to state the obvious, you know, your mum and dad, whichever one has died, are the first people that have ever laid eyes on you, that have ever held you. They've known you from the moment that you're born. And in a way, however difficult your relationship is with your parents, whether they find you difficult or you find them difficult or not at all, they know you essentially more than anybody else has ever known you. And that sense of being known by them, I don't think can ever be kind of replaced by anybody else. And I think people find the death of a parent who they've been very close to like a kind of terrible loneliness, like a kind of really kind of brutal bleakness. And often your parents, if you're really lucky, are the people that have loved you most in the world, that have always been there for you in the world in a way that maybe even other people that you've really loved aren't, because there is the kind of blood link, the kind of oxytocin bond between a parent and a child that is completely unique. It isn't any other kind of domain of our relationships. So, I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think a follow-up question to that really is about the way in which the death of a parent impacts one's sense of self and sense of the future. As you say, this relationship is sort of foundational to how we are formed, but also how we see ourselves. We often look to our parents when we've done something well, for praise, for recognition. So when we lose our life's witness in that way, could you talk a little bit about how that impacts our identity?
I mean, that's a lovely way of saying his life's witness. I think two parts of that come up. First of all, if it's your last parent that has died, so it's the kind of both your parents are dead, that sense of being an orphan can leave you feeling very untethered and alone, but also it puts you in touch with your mortality, that in your family line, you're in the next in line to die. But also a huge amount of your identity, your racial identity, your cultural identity, where you were born, your belief system, your values, you know, come initially from your parents. And a lot of those values and beliefs you can change over time. Even your kind of gender identity, you may change. But your initial sense of your identity comes entirely from what is modeled and what you were brought up in. And identity is a key part of our psychological health, that sense of every aspect of my identity, all the different versions of our identity need to feel that that they're in sync, that they're loved and they belong. And if they've been very kind of mirrored from our parents' identity, as you said, that witness thing is that we might feel that our sense of identity has completely been kind of shifted off its central axis when you no longer have your mother or your father kind of reflecting back your belief system at you in a kind of affirming, loving, confirming way. And that takes a long time to adjust.
So there's a kind of grief process, but there's also a way in which you're reimagining yourself and your future. And, you know, I guess that's very frightening, but there's also opportunities there as well for a kind of recreation of self at times, but it can be very frightening.
I think the unknown is always frightening. And, you know, as you and I have talked about before, pain is the agent of change. Pain, as much as we never want to feel it and want to do what we can to avoid it, is the way that we adjust to this new reality that our mother or father has died. But in that process of adjusting, you also find a way of internalizing them. So that, you know, when I've worked with people whose parents have died, if they ask them, should I marry this guy? They have internalized their mother or father's voice and beliefs that they can say yes or no, or what, you know, they know them. And so the process of adjustment is the touchstones to memory, but it takes longer than you want. And obviously the relationship, how they died, the circumstances of the death, all of that will influence that process.